I am about to unmute and we'll go live.
Welcome to AARP's Mobile Mayoral Debate, presented by AARP of Alabama. My name is Maggie Cates, and I'll be moderating this afternoon. Today, we're going to talk with the two candidates about their positions on crime, homelessness, Mobile's economy, and more. Before we get started, let's quickly go over the rules. The candidates have been told the topics we're discussing, but AL.com has not shared specific questions with the campaigns. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer, and the candidate who answered first will get a 30-second rebuttal. The order in which the candidates will answer was determined earlier by a coin flip. So let's meet our two candidates, Spiro Cheriogotis and Barbara Drummond. We're going to begin with 3 minutes of opening statements from each candidate. Spiro, you're up first.
Thank you. Thank you to AL.com, Alabama Media Group. Thank you to AARP for hosting this. My name is Spiro Cheriogotis, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a husband to Lucy Greer. I'm a father to our 4 young children. I'm a small business owner, and I've served Mobile for 11 years as both a prosecutor and judge. But first and foremost, I'm a man of faith. I grew up in a working class family. I watched as my family built a business from scratch. You know, we didn't have much, but we had each other. I spent most of my free time in that business, and I learned a lot growing up in a family business. I learned how to persevere through hard times. I learned the value of hard work and to always do what you say you will do. I continued to work, and I worked hard in school, and I took out loans to get through law school because I wanted to serve. You know, I wanted to ensure that justice was blind. Having been in really every seat in the courtroom, I wanted to be sure that justice was fair for all. You know, as a judge, I saw people from every corner of our community. I was responsible for running a stop sign all the way up to people accused of the worst crimes. And it gave me an intimate look at the struggles that people face in our community. And what excites me about being a mayor is the opportunity to prevent crime rather than just preside over it. And I do believe we can prevent crime. I believe we can prevent crime by painting clear pathways to opportunity, not just for our youth, but for our adults. Through workforce development programming. I believe that we can prevent crime by investing in youth programs where we teach things, where we give opportunities for mentorship and teach things like emotional regulation and conflict resolution so that more kids don't end up in a courtroom. You know, I believe we can reduce recidivism by investing in people who are recently released from prison, by investing in local groups like Ransom Solutions. You know, as a business owner, I've seen that government can be a bridge to success. It can also be a roadblock to progress. So I'm committed to cutting red tape at City Hall, and I'm committed to installing a customer service mentality at City Hall. I've looked at our city, and I want to ensure that we build a city that stands the test of time. That's why I'm committed in investing the proper amount of money in our road and stormwater infrastructure system. We have to be ready for whatever comes with Mobile. I'm looking forward to investing in quality of life projects like Brooklyn by the Bay, the arena. We need a new theater. And most of all, I'm excited about truly activating the waterfront here in Mobile. We're a city surrounded by water. It's time we see it. My name is Spiro Cheriogotis. I'm running to ensure that the city of Mobile can finally reach its full potential. And today I'm asking you to join me as we look forward to what's next for our great city.
Barbara.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Barbara Drummond, and I want to thank affordable housing. We both want to see stronger small businesses. We both want to see and choose youth alternatives for the kids in our community as it relates to violence. But there's one difference, one stark difference. Only one of us have the proven experience to have done that. A lot of people ask me, what are you going to do? I am doing it now. When we talk about workforce development, I championed a bill last session to incentivize employers to fund child health care for their employees and enable child care providers to offer more readily available, affordable, high quality child care. That bill passed and is now law. And when we talk about economic development, I am so honored that I was there on the team when Airbus was recruited, when Austin was recruited, when ThyssenKrupp. Former Governor Bob Riley once said, "Look at her now, for she will never ever look the same again." He was talking about Mobile. When we talk about gun violence in our city, I want everybody to know that I was one of the ones who submitted legislation earlier this year to hold parents accountable if weapons were showing up on school campuses, and it was called a gun storage bill. You don't need to vote for me because I promise anything. Vote for me because I have the proven experience and I have delivered on every one of those things that I said that I would do. Look at the results of last month's election. Not many people thought that I would be number one, and I was number one with 33.7%, and 25 out of 37 precincts voted for Team Drummond's campaign. And we won throughout the city in every neighborhood. And we did that because we did that because we're receiving the people's support. I'm running to make Mobile a better place for all Mobilians, not just for a few neighborhoods, but all. We've seen some great successes, but not all neighborhoods are sharing in that success. Young people need a safe place for their kids, and they need small businesses that will be supported throughout the city. A Drummond administration will do just that. And I am asking you on September the 23rd to go to drummondformayor.com and vote for Barbara Drummond. Thank you.
Thank you both. We're going to start our debate by discussing homelessness in Mobile. Spiro, the City Council has discussed anti-camping ordinances. Newly installed Archbishop Mark Rivatuso wants to make homelessness a priority. Even just a few yards away in Bienville Square, homelessness is an issue. Name one policy plan you would implement within your first 100 days to address homelessness.
Well, I certainly think we need to invigorate our services. There's a group called the RAIN Group. Their intent is to build what I would call a homeless triage center, a one-stop shop where services like mental health, drug rehabilitation, healthcare services, but also workforce development services will be available. They also have plans for temporary housing. As a judge, I dealt with homelessness regularly. I dealt with people who were struggling, who were in the streets, who wanted a better life for themselves. And I certainly referred them to those type of programs. But we got to make sure that we are helping those who want to hand up get out of this situation. The truth is there are some people who don't want to be in these programs. They want to choose their way of life. And I think when you talk about those individuals, we got to make sure we're keeping our citizens safe. Panhandling has been deemed to be free speech, but it's dangerous. It really leads to dangerous situations on our roadways. So I would also like to implement signage that says, hey, if you want to help, donate here. Donate to our city services. We have a homeless intervention team. Donate to facilities that are providing these services. Don't give out cash, because if there's one thing I saw as a judge is that those cash handouts often lead to things being bought that have led to the homelessness in the first place. So we certainly need to focus our efforts on those people who are employed but ran into a bad streak, get them back on their feet, back into a home, back to being a productive citizen. And for those that don't want our services, we need to make sure they're not creating dangerous situations for our citizens and our customers.
Thank you. Barbara, question to you.
Well, homelessness is something that I have championed a lot in the city, even before I became an elected official. It's something that I've looked at. I'm really proud to say that it took one of my supporters who told me when I called to ask for her support. I am one of the founding members who helped to build a facility for McKinney Place, which is a homeless shelter for women in West Mobile, and it is doing wonderful. One thing that I think that we need to do, we cannot criminalize homelessness. I think that you talked about policy. I think that the city as well as the council has to take a position that we are going to work toward getting a unified system. And I think all of the things my opponent talked about are good, but the one thing that was missing is mental health. When you look at the issues that's facing many of those that are in the homeless community, it's mental health. And I am proud that I had championed that at the state level, but we need to pull all of those voices to the table that is helping the homeless now, because it's very fragmented, from mental health to workforce development to all of our healthcare facilities like Franklin and others who are serving the homeless community, and housing. We've got to get back at the deep root. I am one of those people that believe that we need to lift all tides in our city. And homeless individuals, I agree, they don't want a handout. We need to give them a handout, but I think that we need a unified approach to doing it. And I think that can start with the city of Mobile by providing a voice for all of those to come to the table, and the city needs to be a partner in there. They need to help incentivize those nonprofit agencies to help deliver the very best services that they can to the homeless community. That is what is kind of missing. There are a lot of voices out there and a lot of people that are doing good work, but nobody is unified. It is time that we unify.
Thank you. Spiro, you've got 30 seconds if you want to respond.
You know, the truth is the main contributor to the increasing homelessness in our communities is the closure by Alabama closing our inpatient mental health facilities like Sept. So many of those people who should be getting round the clock, residential care are not. And that's why we need our state, especially our legislature, to step up and fully fund, mental health care in our city. Throughout our state. When I look at homelessness, it is the most complex issue we deal with, and I certainly agree that we need a unified approach.
Thank you. Now we're going to talk about seniors in the community. We have a question from our sponsor. AARP has a 35-year history of nonpartisan voter engagement, getting voters information about where the candidates stand on important issues so they can make their own decisions on election day. Barbara, adults age 50 and older represent more than 36% of the population of Mobile, reflecting the aging population across our state. If elected mayor, how will you ensure our city becomes age-friendly with accessible transportation, safe, walkable neighborhoods, and services that support healthy aging for residents of all ages?
That's a real good question. And as a matter of fact, I got that question on yesterday when I was at the Cunning Hudson Senior Center. I think that we, again, need to look at those initiatives, because I think Mobile right now, just not for seniors, but I think just for tourism and everything, and seniors in particular, make sure that we have senior housing, which has been lacking in a number of our communities because it's been taken away when we took away public housing. So I think that we need to come back to a focus on senior services. And then I also think that we need to champion more initiatives as it relates to seniors. One of the things that I do in concert with one of our council members, and I've been doing it for now 8 years, we have a Seniors Making a Difference Award. We have a luncheon every year, just had it in July. And at that particular event, we had all of those agencies that are offering services, from transportation to how do you get Part 3, and how we partner with Comcast Cable to talk about those things where seniors can benefit from. And I think that that's what we've got to get back to, not just for a walkable community, but making sure all of those services for seniors are paramount. And that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. And seniors are not put out to pasture because we have a lot of great seniors. We've given probably about 22 awards throughout the city for seniors that you would not know that is making a difference in this city, in this community. And I am really honored because many of those are in children's lives. So they're getting the past with the future, and they're helping us to build a foundation for tomorrow. So that's what I would do.
Thank you. Spiro, what about you?
Mobile has 3 public senior centers right now. I think we need to look at increasing that. We're a big city. I love our senior centers. In the end, I think we talked about healthy aging. Being a part of a community is a great way to, be healthy, mentally healthy and physically healthy. So I certainly think we need to invest more in our senior centers. And I think we need to look at adding some senior centers around our city. When you talk about walkability and public transportation is something high on my list. Mobile spends quite a bit of money, around $15 million towards public transportation every year. I think it's actually more than that. We need to get more bang for our buck. We need to have more regular, reliable routes that aren't so confusing. I've ridden our public transportation system. It's difficult to navigate, and it's certainly difficult if you don't know how to operate a smartphone. And so we need to create more regular, reliable routes, more comfortable stops where you have a bench, you have a covering, somewhere to wait. And when I look at walkability, I really think of the city's complete streets program. That means not just fixing the underground utilities, the roadway, but also adding sidewalks and making those sidewalks usable. That's how we increase walkability. We certainly need to continue to invest in that. But in the end, it is often about public safety. If our seniors are wanting to walk and enjoy our parks and enjoy our public transportation, they have to feel safe doing it. And so focusing in on public safety, ensuring that we're creating a safe city where everyone can thrive, that's what I'm committed to.
Barbara, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Well, I want to tell folks about a program that I'm working on right now for seniors in my district, the Sales Center on Dolphin Island Parkway. Again, partnerships is everything, and I'm working with one of our council members because right now our seniors are in an old Mobile Community Action old school, and they didn't have the 3 rooms. And when we talk about exercise, I am the one who went to that center and said, I will buy all of the equipment because they're very mobile, they're very agile. And so I am championing building a senior facility that's state-of-the-art down DIP, not only with exercise equipment, but with educational opportunities for our seniors to learn more about the city.
Thank you. So now we're going to shift to discuss public safety. Former U.S. Attorney Kenyon Brown issued a report last year that found that Mobile's police department acted in a demeaning and unconstitutional way toward Black residents. Spiro, how would you improve police relations with the city's Black neighborhoods?
There's certainly some trust that needs to be rebuilt. That report is problematic, but what I know are the officers and individuals that I saw in court every day. I know that we have some great officers out there doing the work, striving to keep our city safe. And what we have to realize is they're dealing with maybe the most stressful job on earth. They never know what is coming against them each and every day. And so I think we certainly need to focus on our officers' mental health. We need to make sure that they are able to offload the difficulties and trauma of their job so that they can be fresh and ready to engage with the public in a positive way. I do think we need to rebuild trust. I love coffee with a cop. Let's go shoot some hoops at the local basketball court. We need to be a part of our communities. And in that vein, I want to expand programs that provide down payment assistance for officers. I think it's a retention tool, but it also allows officers to be a member of the community they're policing. I want officers living on the same streets that they ride because they'll see more of the issues. They'll understand the situation better than an officer that's coming from out of town. I think there are ways that we can truly engage our communities. And whether that's more often having open and honest community conversations with our police officers, I'm certainly interested in pursuing that. Whether that means having third-party community action groups to review procedures of police officers, I'm certainly in favor of that. We need to make sure that the public knows they can trust their officers because we need the public to help. Without the public alerting us to issues, the police can't respond. So we certainly need to rebuild that trust.
Thank you. Barbara?
I think that report was somewhat flawed, but it did point to some very interesting things in our community. First, that we realize that we have a lot of very good men and women who are on the front line. But we also have to be very mindful that there is a distrust in the Black and brown community as it relates to policing. I've attended many community meetings, and it's very tragic to me to hear them say that we don't want to call the police because we don't trust them. So which tells me that those departments within the police that have a direct contact with all of us every day, we've got to go in and sit down with them, look at the resources that they now have, and then retool and rebrand how they deal with the Black and brown community. In one of those incidents that was put in that report, that young man had some mental deficiencies. So we need our police officers not only to be retooled and rebranded in cultural issues, but also in mental health. Because a number of those issues, you look at a lot of those individuals are very, very out there. They don't have the mental capacity to be able to trust. We need them to know that. I was really upset because I thought that this was a prime opportunity for us to have transparency so that we can build trust back in the police. Now, I want transparency. I'm not trying to tamper with any investigation, but that was one of those incidents where the public had a right to know. And that way we could have built trust that we're on your side. We're not trying to hide anything or trying to hide the bad. We want the bad to be rooted out so that you can trust us again. And I think we can get there because I think we have a good department for the most part, but there are bad apples out there. And that report proved some of those things, although I didn't agree with everything. It was somewhat flawed. But we believe in the police department. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to be clear, Barbara, when you're referring to investigations and transparency, what incident are you referring to?
I am talking about those incidents that were outlined in that report. So you can read the report and see those incidents. The family members as well as community leaders were asking for access to some of the webcam and all of that, and they were not allowed to get that information. And I think that's where we can do a better job without jeopardizing the investigation. We can be transparent to make sure that our community and our city know that the police is there for them.
Thank you. Spiro, I'll give you maybe a minute to rebut.
Okay. Certainly transparency is key in any government. And I do think there is room for body cameras to be viewed. Whether we release those to the public, I'm a judge, and I know that we could potentially spoil a jury pool, and everyone deserves a fair trial by a jury of their peers. But I do think that when you have stakeholders, family members, attorneys involved in the case, I think they need to be able to see that body cam footage early on in the process. I think we certainly need to stem, any accusations of malfeasance as early as we can, because that does degrade trust in our departments. What I know is that we have a lot of good officers out there doing their absolute best. I want to make sure they have the right equipment, the most up-to-date technology, and the right training and really benefits and assistance to ensure that they're able to perform their job in a not just a timely manner, but an efficient manner that allows for our city to be safer.
Thank you. Barbara, news reports say that President Donald Trump is considering mobilizing the National Guard to 19 states, including Alabama. As mayor, would you welcome National Guard troops to combat crime in Mobile?
I think that Mobile is no different than any other part of the country. And if we needed help, we certainly ask for help. But my thing, I think we have the help already with a good police department. I'm not looking for the federal government to take over city government because there are levels to government. And I think that we can protect our own and we can solve our own problems. I don't want law enforcement to be politicized because we're talking about people and their lives and their wherewithal to be able to thrive in a good community. That's what I've been talking about all along. So I think that we need local people to solve local problems.
Thank you. Spiro, what about you?
I think our military is not a police force. That's not what they're trained for. I think they can be a great peacekeeping force, in times of natural disaster or times when the regular civil services break down. I struggle to see needing them here in Mobile. There's no doubt that we need to increase public safety, that we need to address crime. But I believe in our police department. I believe that we have great people doing great work. They might need some more help. I think we certainly could add some more police officers. I'm thrilled to be endorsed by the Mobile County Law Enforcement Association and the Police Benevolent Association. I think our police need to know that they've got a mayor who has their back, who wants to ensure that not only are they safe, but they have the best equipment and technology and training that they need to do their best job. I can't say I would never welcome the National Guard, but there certainly could be instances where we would need them. I don't think Mobile's in a place where we need that kind of intervention.
Barbara, you have 30 seconds.
You know, when you talk about the National Guard, Mobile has used them in all of the hurricane prones, and I think that's their role. But I go back to saying what I said a moment ago. I think Mobile has the resources here, and I am really gratified. I met a group of young men and a young lady who represents First 48 Hours, the Mobile Homicide Unit, who has endorsed me. And I looked at them and they said to me that they have such a high clearance rate. I think that we need to invest more into our police department to make sure they've got the resources and the benefits to not only retain, but also to attract more to the department.
Thank you both. So shifting gears, we're going to talk about where we are right now. Downtown Mobile has seen a resurgence with the restart of Amtrak service and the opening of the Hall of Fame walk. Still, downtown is plagued by blight and empty buildings. The city is pursuing a vacant property registry. Spiro, what is one specific thing you would do to accelerate the momentum of Mobile's downtown?
I think it is making sure that we're protecting Mobile downtown. I do think we need increased police presence downtown so that people enjoying our downtown feel safe. But blight is a huge concern. We sit next to a couple of buildings. I sure would like to see something nice go in there and the plywood come down. I do think we could do a better job of enforcing our facade requirements. They don't allow for plywood. They don't allow for some of the things we see. I do think a registry is a great way to get us on that path. As judge, I presided over a case where the Hoffman Furniture Building was set on fire by an individual who was unhoused. We have to ensure that when people do choose to invest in our downtown, to invest in the progress that we're seeing downtown, that investment is protected. And so that blight registry will enable us to identify those buildings that they need fire protection. If nobody's in there, keeping an eye on things, making sure that bad activity is not occurring inside their building, that their building's not unsecured. We need to make sure that we're having that fire protection in place. We know where these buildings are so that we can protect not just their building, but the buildings surrounding them.
Thank you. I certainly remember that case. Barbara, what is one specific thing you would do?
I've often said, and I said it on last night, that we need to do a master plan to identify all of the blight in the entire city, not just downtown, but throughout the entire city. Downtown is a jewel, and I was here. You may see some boarded up boards now in buildings, but I remember when downtown had no traffic whatsoever. So I've seen a revitalization of downtown. And I think that this is an opportunity because it's in a historic area for us to do a lifestyle change so that we can attract more people and show them a jewel. And I think that we need to attract more affordable, more wholesome, and more good entertainment into downtown to draw people, to show them that this is a good area. But the registry is something that I sat down with the current mayor probably about 4 years ago and said that I wanted to do because everybody's got to take accountability for the blight. We've got to know where it is. And it's not just in downtown Mobile. It's throughout all of our cities, all of our cities. There are so many neighborhoods that have been forgotten and they're blight ridden. It is time for Mobile to look at blight as one of our major impediments to the beauty that we have within our city and begin doing something about it and holding those who own those blighted properties accountable so that we can make not only downtown, but every one of our neighborhoods healthy. That's what I want to do when I become mayor. We have a wonderful city. It is now time for us to make her the city that sits on top of the hill because she has so much a great future ahead of her.
Thank you. Spiro, you have 30 seconds.
On top of fighting blight in downtown, one thing that I think is missing is our connection to the waterfront. Mobile has never really connected its waterfront to its entertainment district. And so one thing I'll do as mayor is really fight to reimagine Water Street. Water Street, 6 lanes plus of traffic. It feels dangerous to cross it. We need to create a situation where visitors to Mobile, citizens of Mobile, can take a stroll in our downtown, leave the Anvil Square, and just happen to find themselves on the water. That's something we need to do to fully activate our downtown.
Barbara, what do you have to respond to Spiro about waterfront activation?
Well, I kind of agree with him, and I had an opportunity to sit down with one of the developers, and I'm excited about the projects that is going up on Water Street now with the hotel, the shops, and the condos, and it is going to have Water Street be in that particular area go from 4 lanes down to 2. That is going to connect this part of Dolphin Street with Water Street on the other side at the convention center. I think I told this developer that he did something that I just thought was extraordinary. For the first time, we're now going to have a walkable path to the waterfront. So I'm going to hope that we will continue building upon the jewel that this developer is going to do that I fully support.
Thank you. Quality of life is often seen as crucial to drawing employers and jobs to a city. Mobile has made an effort to improve quality of life. For example, the construction of a new $300 million civic center. Spiro, what is one quality of life priority you would tackle in your first term, and what type of industry would you try to recruit to the city?
Quality of life is so important. I'm very excited about the new civic center, new arena. People call it different things. I think that's really going to expand and build upon the footprint of downtown. One thing I want to do is get Brooklyn by the Bay open. People very much want to be able to enjoy the great outdoors. And we've been working on our 3-mile greenway. I certainly want to see that completed. But Brooklyn by the Bay, I think, will be the crown jewel of our city's park system. I've been out there. It needs some infrastructure in place. We have a $25-ish million plan to fully utilize that space. But we don't need to invest $25 million to make that waterfront area great. Just give me a parking lot and a weed eater, and let's create some walking trails, bike trails. We don't have to bite it all off at one time. I want to see that open to the public as soon as possible. I think it provides access to the bay, access to the waterfront, to people, whether you have a boat or not. Right now, if you don't have a boat, you're kind of out of luck. I want to create a place where, that kid with a fishing pole can walk down to the bay, can catch a trolley, ride their way to the bay, and enjoy nature's gifts. So that is certainly a top priority of mine.
What about industry that you would try to attract?
I want to attract all the industry that wants to be here. I think there's definitely some opportunities with some new spending bills for more maritime manufacturing. We still have a great space out on the island, down from Austell, that would be perfect for another ship manufacturing facility, another, something to get America back on track to building ships again. I'm excited about the opportunities that Airbus provides, not just with their own investment, but tertiary companies, suppliers. So I certainly would look to attract those suppliers and attract more logistics companies to support our port.
Thank you. Barbara, 2-part question to you.
Okay, the first thing that I think I would do, and I think it's such a jewel when we talk about quality of life here in Mobile, we have an international story that sits in Africa Town. The world knows our story. It is true. The ship has been found. I think that we have an opportunity to build an international museum in Africa Town and make it an eco-tourism market here that will help with the quality of life. I certainly think that we needed a new arena, but I think we were remiss because we don't have a theater there to help us to showcase all of the talent that we have in the city of Mobile, and we have a lot of talent in the city of Mobile. Those two things that I think that will be transformative. It will help us to, when we rehab our neighborhoods, to give people an opportunity to want to stay here in Mobile because there's something to do. I just think that Africa Town is an untapped jewel that all got to embrace, that will bring mega millions into the city of Mobile. And I think that we need to weave it into all of the other historic things that we have in Mobile. Mobile is a historic city. I take Mardi Gras. We don't know that we're the birthplace until we're at Mardi Gras and we're telling people. We shouldn't have to tell them. We need to show them that all of the history, so it needs to be intertwined and interconnected. So that's what I would do. And as far as industry is concerned, I think that when you look at what Airbus, there's a lot of opportunities with all of our new airport and the deepening of the Port of Mobile. I think there's opportunities for us to bring in more. We can even do auto, we can do Airbus. We've got so many opportunities when this port is deepened that I think it's going to set us on fire. So those are the future opportunities that I'm going to work on.
Thank you. Spiro, you have another 30 seconds.
Yeah, staying on, industry, when I think of business, I'm really excited about our downtown airport. The downtown airport, so many people fly in and out of town, on a daily basis. They're running nationwide, sometimes local companies. The ability to touch down on the tarmac and be downtown in our business center, I think is going to be revolutionary. And I think it's going to help us attract more regional and corporate headquarters so that we're providing those high-paying C-suite jobs to our citizens.
Thank you. Barbara, you voted in support of a controversial hemp bill that critics say has led to the closure of some businesses in and around Mobile. City governments have debated whether to decriminalize low levels of marijuana. More states, including Florida, are letting voters decide whether to legalize recreational use of marijuana. What is the approach that you would take as mayor when it comes to this issue?
I voted also in favor of medical marijuana in the state of Alabama. And if you look at the history throughout the country, usually when medical marijuana passes, also decriminalizing marijuana, period. Because when you look at the court system, there are so many individuals within our city that have gone to jail for small amounts of marijuana for recreational use. So I am in favor of doing whatever policies that we need to decriminalize marijuana. And when you look at the bill that you just cited, that was not my bill. I did vote as well as the entire legislature. If you look at the vote count on that bill, but let me tell you why I did it. I did it because in Montgomery, as well as many things in this country, you have to compromise. And I was passing a healthcare vaping bill for young people, one of which who died in Selma for getting a vape pipe that was laced with fentanyl. I championed that bill for 3 years, could not get it passed until the last year. So you have to do a little give and take. The bill was not my bill. I didn't sponsor, nor did I co-sponsor. I, like 104 other individuals, and I voted for it because it had a provision in there for young people. I will never, ever back down on the health care of young people, because if I can save one young person's life, that's what I'm going to work for. And we now are regulating vaping in this city. I have gone to all of the public as well as private schools, and vaping was the #1 issue among young people. I do not want another phone call from a superintendent telling me that a student has died as a result of vaping. So that is where I stand.
Spiro?
I look at the House bill that it has cost some people their businesses. What concerns me about it is, many have recognized the medical benefits of cannabis. Barbara mentioned that she voted for medical marijuana. There's no doubt that marijuana and cannabis derivatives are seen in our medicine, and they should be regulated. We certainly don't want children using it for recreational purposes. But what concerns me about the House bill is that it limited access to legally law-abiding adults who are trying to employ, the benefits of cannabis use, whether it's for seizures, pain, inflammation. These things are proven, and so I do think we need to, increase legal access. In my experience as a judge, the worst thing about marijuana is the black market. That is where it's coming from, and people involved in the black market are often involved in violence. So many of the murders that I saw as a judge were not directly related to just drugs in general, but marijuana specifically. low-level drug sales that led to deaths that were so avoidable. And so when I look at a legal avenue that certainly needed more regulation, I don't think the level of regulation that it's received, they cut off legal pathways to those benefits. It concerns me. We need to make sure that we are not unnecessarily locking up individuals for making a personal choice that's not harming anyone else. We don't need to be costing people their jobs by unnecessarily throwing them in jail. I think it's an area we could give officers more discretion, whether or not to issue a citation, require a court appearance, or whether somebody actually deserves to be arrested and locked up.
Thank you. Barbara, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I agree wholeheartedly. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to some of my colleagues to try to do some fixes along with other cities that have come up with some fixes for that piece of legislation. And I wholeheartedly will support. It's only in the infant stage to clean up what was messed up again. That was not my deal, nor did I sponsor it. But I am so happy that I got something passed in Montgomery that will help young people and be able to regulate vaping in the entire state of Alabama.
Thank you. So moving on, though the city has no authority over the governance of the Mobile County school system, we wanted to ask this question from one of our Facebook commenters. How will you work with the school system to improve our school district and attract and retain excellent school teachers? Spiro, you'll begin.
This is very personal to me. I have 4 children. They're all, in public school, Mobile County public schools. And so I do look at ways that we can support our school system. I always encourage parent involvement. That's one thing. If you look at schools, if you look at the most successful schools, they have high levels of parent involvement. But I also think we need to begin supporting our children at the front end. So many of Mobile's young people never attend any level of preschool. Many don't even attend kindergarten. Kindergarten is not legally required here in this state. I certainly think we could use a law change on that. I would like to see every child receiving that kindergarten education, but I want to go a step further. I think we as a city need to set a goal that every child receive at least 1 year of preschool education. It helps children to integrate into a structured system. It teaches some of those basics. And what I want to avoid are those children showing up to school for the first time and every one of their classmates are raising their hand because they know their letters, they know their sounds, they know their numbers. And kids, I'm afraid, are feeling left behind. We have in Alabama, we have first class pre-K. It provides preschool education through a lottery system to people regardless of their ability to pay. I think I would like to see that expanded. I think the city can assist preschool providers in reaching the level where they can receive that pre-K funding. And I also look at public transportation, because even if a single mother is awarded that kind of lottery ticket to get their kid preschool education, if they don't have a vehicle, if they don't have reliable public transportation, how are they going to get their child there? So there are issues we need to address. Certainly, we need to expand our workforce development programs as well.
Thank you. Barbara, to you.
Well, this is one of the issues that I show my experience and the level of knowledge, because I am working with the Mobile County public school system now. I'm not only a product of public education from Williamson High School on to Murphy High School. Also, my daughter is a product of public education, but I was one of the individuals that sat at the table from South Alabama that got $11.7 million more for the Mobile County public school system under a hybrid model. They changed the funding formula, and I worked so hard because those dollars will go into programs where students need them. They will be defined. We'll be able to track the progress. I'm not going to say that the Mobile County public school system is where it ought to be, but it's certainly not where it used to be. There are things that are working in the school system. And again, my knowledge, because this legislature, and I was a part of that, we did pass kindergarten, but we didn't have to do it in Mobile County, because right now our school system does have a kindergarten program for all of our elementary public schools. And we need to embrace that knowledge and stop looking at them and us. I think that we need to put more money into programs like the Literacy Act, which I co-sponsored, the Numeracy Act, which I co-sponsored. Those are working. When you look at the ACAP scores, you can see scores that are going up on schools that were on the failing school list. They're now making a difference. We now know the programs. And I believe with all of my heart, the new hybrid model for funding public education is going to work. We just got to put the resources there where the student needs them. I have championed many workforce development programs, especially at Excel Academy, and I'm proud to say about 120 of those kids were trained in that program and now are working in Mobile County.
Thank you. Spiro, you have 30 seconds.
You know, we have the availability of kindergarten, but our truancy laws don't require it. We need to require kindergarten for all of our students. We need to expand that preschool education, and we need to make sure that, you know, I'm publicly educated myself, public school all the way. We need to make sure that kids are leaving high school with a plan, you know, and we need to eradicate the idea that further education, college education, is the only pathway to success and wealth. Mobile has many jobs that are high-paying jobs that are available to properly trained students straight out of school. We need to make sure they have the training necessary.
Thank you. Barbara, what would be your first official act as mayor if you were to be elected?
I'm going to make sure that I evaluate the budget, especially the budget that has been presented. Because one of the things that I want to make sure that we're putting those dollars where they're needed. Unlike my opponent, I have not had the opportunity. I submitted about 30 questions to the now finance director and have not received one answer. But I will make sure that we evaluate that budget and make sure that that budget is going, and those dollars are going into the areas that I just talked about. You talked about quality of life, enhancement of neighborhoods, increasing public safety, not just for the police, but also for the fire department, looking at the benefits, bringing all of those bear to table. So those are that on my first day, nobody's going to have to tell me where the restroom is. I know where the restroom is. My experience, I've been there, I've done it. I've got experience in county, city, as well as state government. So the first thing I'm going to look at is where's the money.
Thank you. Spiro, you?
You know, I found the budget online. I've never met with our finance director, but my first act, to me, public safety is paramount. Public safety has to be first and foremost. So I would meet with our command staff at MPD, you know, discuss ongoing trends, discuss ways that we can be more effective as a police department. I would also seek to meet with our community leaders. You know, we talked about the need to rebuild that trust and create parameters where, you know, the community feels like they can trust their police force. And, you know, I will meet with those community leaders and invite them to the table. I will invite our command staff and other officers to the table so that that conversation can be had. We need a safer city. When people are deciding where they're going to choose to live, they're oftentimes looking at crime stats, you know, availability of homes, and our public education and what level it is. So, you know, to me, first and foremost, everybody deserves a safe place to spend their time, to lay their head at night, to feel safe as they rest. And so that'll be my top priority as mayor.
Thank you. Barbara, you have another 30 seconds.
Well, all of that being said, I want my opponents to know that I did go online and download the budget. And so I've seen how much the penny, which was once said that they were going to repeal it, is bringing in $58 billion. But I want to make sure that all of those dollars that are within the city budget that's being proposed are going into areas that are going to be effective and will not tie our hands when we get ready to take over City Hall. We're going to look at public safety. We're going to look at transit, but we'll look at all things that will affect the citizens of Mobile to make sure that we can take Mobile to the next level, because we've got the experience and the ability to knock on doors and know what to do on day one.
Thank you. It's time to move into closing statements. Each candidate will get 3 minutes. Barbara, you go first.
Next week, we're a week away. This is going to be a very important decision for all of Mobile. It's been 12 years since we've had a vacancy in the mayor's office. You can vote for somebody who was born and raised here, who has Mobile in her DNA, her entire professional life has been to make Mobile a better place. Or you can vote for a candidate that has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from special interests and is not from Mobile. I'm a proud daughter of Mobile. I'm a proud product of public school. As a single mother, I've raised a daughter right here in Mobile, and I'm a proud woman because today she's a healthcare lawyer. When we talk about problems that's facing Mobilians, I know them because I have lived them. I'm a problem solver. This campaign is about one simple promise. Every community in Mobile deserves to share in the city's success, and a Drummond administration will make sure that it happens. I am the only candidate with proven experience in city, county, and state levels of government. When things are tough, I am not going to complain. I'm going to go to work on day one to make sure that there are solutions. It's not what I am going to do. It is what I am doing now. So I encourage all who are tuning in, who are listening right now to go to my website at drummondformayor.com. And on next Tuesday, September the 23rd, I want you to join all of those others because they're people. We're not looking at party. We're not looking at politics. We're looking at people in the People's Campaign, and go vote for Barbara Drummond for mayor.
Thank you. Spiro, you have 3 minutes.
To respond a little bit, I may not have been born here, but Mobile is my home. My children were born here. Lucy and I have chosen to raise our family and to build businesses here in Mobile. All 4 of my children are in public school here. They will be for at least the next decade. So the progress of Mobile is personal to me. When I talk about building a city where all families can thrive, it's not just a talking point, it is personal to me. I've heard about my lack of experience. To my knowledge, I'm the only business owner at the table. I'm the only one who's built a business from scratch and provided for their family. I've proven that I can stick to a budget, and the only special interests that I've taken any money from, I'm proud to have over 700 donors to my campaign, mostly individuals. But the only people that have donated to me, their only interest is good governance. It's not going to leave the city bankrupt. I'm invested in the future of Mobile, and I believe the future of Mobile is bright. So long as we have the right kind of leadership. Mobile deserves leadership, that appreciates the problems of today, but reflects the opportunities of tomorrow. We can't afford to get stuck in the politics of the past. Mobile deserves leadership with clear vision and energy to seize the opportunity our city has before it right now. Because if we let this opportunity pass, we may never get it back. I want to move Mobile into that potential. We've been in the city of perpetual potential for long enough. It's time that we realize that potential and we become a city of unlimited possibility. If we stand together as a city, if we unite and not divide, I know that we can do it. And so that's what I'm asking. I'm asking people to join me. As a small business owner, I learned you never make promises that you can't keep. And with that in mind, I want to make some promises to the voters. If you choose me as your mayor, I will always seek to unite and never to divide. I will always seek to serve all Mobilians, not just some. I promise you that I will always do the right thing, no matter the political consequence. I promise I will seek to love my neighbor and that I will tell you the truth, always. When I was faced with the decision whether to keep my judgeship or step off the bench and run for mayor, I was willing to step away from the bench because I saw the importance of this moment in time. On September 23rd, the voters of Mobile are going to choose whether Mobile continues to move forward or whether we fall backwards. I'm proud of the many local endorsements I've gotten, through our law enforcement, our firefighters, and with our Mobile realtors. But in the end, what I'm asking the voters to do is trust me. I'm asking you to trust me with your vote on September 23rd so that Mobile can finally realize its full potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to AL.com's Mobile Mayoral Debate, presented by our sponsor, AARP of Alabama. You can read all about the race and the issues leading up to the September 23rd election on AL.com.